Okay, today's daf is daf kuftet. We're going to start at the bottom of kuftet, second to last line. Hu haya omer. This is, or actually, you know what? We're going to start 4 lines from the bottom. Tanya namiachi. It says similarly that Amar Rabbi Mona Mishum Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Mona said the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Tipat zonin shacharit uruchitzat yadayim v'raglayim arvit. He says that it's tova tipat zonin shacharit. If you clean your eye with cold water in the morning and you wash your hands and your feet in the evening, is better mikol kilorein shabaolam. It's better than all the medicine in the world. In other words, good hygiene. Basically, they're talking about. Hu ayamer. He would say yad la'ayin tikatzet. If you put your finger in your eye, we're going to cut it off. Right, your hand in your eye, meaning don't touch your eyes. Yad lachotem tikatzet. This is good advice. I mean, put your hand in your nose, picking your nose, putting your finger in your eye. This is all a way to spread germs, right? You get sick from it. Yad lapet tikatzet. Don't put your hands in your mouth. This is like what we tell every single kid, right? This is the advice. Yad laozen tikatzet. Don't put your fingers in your ears. Okay, so then it says yad la chasuda tikatzet. You shouldn't put your hand into your internal places. Okay, yad la amat tikatzet. You shouldn't put your hand to your private area. Yad la pitabat tikatzet. You shouldn't put your hand to the other private area. So basically, what it's talking about is don't put your hand in any of the orifices of your body. Okay, essentially that's what it's trying to get at. Okay, and then it says yad legigit tikatzet. And as we move to kuftet, if you put your hand into the food, don't put your hand right into the barrel of wine. In other words, you're going to spread your germs into the barrel of wine. So then it says like this: yad misameh, the hand will blind you. Yad mahareshet, the hand will make you deaf. Yad maleh polipus, and the hand will make you have bad breath and bad odor coming from your body. In other words, the point is that this is all medical advice that they're telling you. Don't put your hands in these orifices because it's going to spread disease. Tanya said in the Braita, Rabbi Natan said, Rabbi Natan omer bat chorin hi hizo umakpedet at shirchot yadav gimel pa'amim, that the bad spirit, the ruach ra'ah that rests on the hands that you have to wash off in the morning, is a bat chorin, is a free agent, and is very strict. Won't leave your hands until you wash each one 3 times in the morning. That's why we wash our hands 3 times, each hand 3 times, in order to remove this ruach ra'ah in the morning. Rabbi Yochanan says, Poch ma'avir bat melech uposeket adimah marbeh se'ar be'afapayim, that the mascara, the poch that they would put around their eye, will keep away this bat melech, this bad spirit. It will stop you from tearing, and it will also cause eyelashes to grow longer. So you got a lot of beauty benefits as well, not just health benefits. The Braita similarly says, Rabbi Yossi says, Poch ma'avir bat melech uposeket adimah marbeh se'ar ba'afapayim. He said the same thing, that this mascara will remove the bat melech, this spirit, whatever it is, from your eyes, will stop you from crying, and will also make your eyelashes longer. So Amar Ukva, Amar Shmuel, Amar Ukva said that Shmuel said, Alin, en ben mishum rufu'ah. This is a certain type of leaf. Alin generally means leaf, but here it's some kind of grass, Rashi says, that would be used for healing. Now, according to Rashi, the things that are mentioned here are all things that you ingest. According to Tosafot, these are all things that you put over your eye, because before they had been talking about eye medicines. Amar Rav Yosef says, Kusbarta in ba mishum rufu'ah. Kusbarta also is not something that affects any medical cure. This is coriander. So they're talking about things that you're allowed to eat on Shabbat because they're not considered medicine. Or according to Tosafot, you're allowed to put it on your eye because it's not considered medically effective. Amar Rav Shisha says, Kashot en ben bishum refu'ah. Hops are not medically good for you. They don't give you any medical benefit, so therefore you're allowed to either ingest them or put them on your eye. Amar Rav Yosef says, Kusbarta, with regard to the coriander, Afilu lididi kasheli. Even me, they hurt me. Now, why is Rav Yosef saying they hurt me, even me? Because he was blind. So if it doesn't help, if it can even hurt the eyes of a blind person, it must be pretty bad. So it definitely isn't helping you. Amar Rav Shesha says, Gargira, Afilu lididi ma'ale. Gargira, even for me, helps. Gargira, again, Rashi says is some kind of a plant here. Exactly what it is, I don't know. But the point is that it helps my eyes feel better, even though I'm also blind. So that's a really effective kind of a medicine.
Just rocket.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Amar, whatever that is, you can look up in the dictionary. I'm sure it's it's some kind of a plant. Amar Rukva said that Shmuel said, Kol mine kashot charu levar mi taroza. All the kinds of hops that grow are okay to consume or to put on your eye on Shabbat, except for taroza. Apparently, that was very, very medically. A person would never consume it except for medical purposes, so it was obvious that you were doing it as a remedy, and you're not allowed to use medical remedies on Shabbat unless you are so sick that you can't get out of bed. That's the basic rule. Amar Rav Chisda says, Shirika tavya sharei, piyapu'e be'e asur. Now there's two totally different interpretations of this piece. According to Rashi, what this means is that Shirika tavya means that they would take a roasted piece of meat out of the oven, and then they would baste it. On Friday night, they would take it out of the oven, they would baste it with like some kind of mixture of oil and egg or whatever, not when it was still hot. So it wasn't hot enough that it would cook the mixture that was applied to it, but it would add flavor. And piyapu'e be'e means mixing, beating eggs, basically. So even though you're Rocky Balboa and you plan on drinking these eggs straight, you're not going to cook them. Since it looks like you're about to cook them, you're not allowed to do this. And since, however, basting the steak, it said it was okay. You're allowed to do that, but you're not allowed to, beat eggs on Shabbat, even if you want to eat them raw, because it looks like you're about to cook them. Now, that's Rashi's interpretation. The Tosafot brings from Rabbeinu Hananel, who usually brings sort of like the alternative manuscripts of the Talmud that were usually the Sephardic ones, actually, that have a totally different meaning to both of these. Shrikat Tavya means melon juice that you're allowed to, or you're not, or it's saying that you're allowed to strain melon juice. Like, let's say you want to drink watermelon juice. Apparently, people would do that. You would strain it to get some of the pulp out. I guess you're allowed to do that on Shabbat, according to this. And they said that that this piyapu'e be'e is referring to drinking some kind of a vegetable mixture or something like that, which is not allowed because it was only drunk for medicinal purposes. So, but we're going to just follow Rashi's interpretation for now, for simplicity's sake. So, the vitud ze'ire avdale lachia bar ashe velo achal. That the wife of Ze'iri made this kind of steak, this basted steak. She took out the steak on Friday night and she put the mixture around it for Chia bar Ashi, who was her husband's student, and he wouldn't eat it. Amrale, she said to him, "L'Rabach avdile, I made this for your teacher, v'achal, and he ate it. V'at lo achalt, but you won't eat it. What? You're more religious than your teacher? I guess they had that problem back then too. So it says Ze'iri l'tameh. So Chia bar Ashi said no. Ze'iri is following his own opinion here. Da'amar Ze'iri, because he said, Noten adam yain tzalul u'mayim tzalulin l'toch ha'mishameret b'shabbat ve'eno choshesh alma kevan de'mishtateh hachi lav midi ka'aved hachanami kevan de'mitchil hachi lav midi ka'aved. So what he says is basically this, that according to Ze'iri, you can take wine and put it through a strainer on Shabbat. Or you can take water and put it through a strainer that will, strain out the dregs. Why? Because since you would have drunk it anyway, even without straining it, the straining is not considered significant. Since you would have drunk the water even without straining it, you're allowed to strain it because the change is not considered significant. So he said that's why Ze'iri says that you're allowed to baste this steak when you take it out on Shabbat, because since you could have eaten the steak, you could have eaten the meat without the baste, so it's not considered a tikkun, it's not considered an improvement. But I say that any improvement that you do, even if you didn't need it, is still an improvement. So I'm not going to eat it. Or, according to the other interpretation of Rabbeinu Hananel, what it means is the sifting of the juice, of the melon juice, said I could drink it straight, so since Ze'iri said he could drink it straight, even without straining it, so straining it wasn't a big deal. So, but what Rav Chia bar Ashi is saying is, no, since it's still a change, even though it's not a change that's necessary to make it edible, I'm not going to drink it. That's the machloket. The machloket is it borer if you didn't need to strain it in order to drink it. It was fully, perfectly fine. Like if you put something in a Brita filter, you don't even know that it's being filtered. You don't even see anything. Marukva says, somebody whose hand or foot is wounded, she can dip it into wine. I guess that's what they would use as a disinfectant and to stop the bleeding or the swelling of a wound on Shabbat. They asked, Chalamai, can you put it in vinegar? Vinegar was also used to stop wounds from bleeding. Amar Rav Hillel Rav Ashi. Rav Hillel said to Rav Ashi, Ki havena be Rav Kana, when I was in the house of Rav Kana, Amrei Halalo. They said you can't use vinegar. Why? Because vinegar was too obviously considered to be a medicinal treatment. Whereas somebody who maybe had wine on them, maybe they like the smell, maybe they like some other reason they're using it, maybe it's not as obvious that it's being used for medicinal purposes. Amar Rav Rava says, V'hanei b'nei mechuzah, those of mechuzah, kevan de mefanke afilu chamra nami masei lahu. That the people of Mechuzah, since they were so luxurious, they lived in a lap of luxury, they would never use vinegar. They would only use wine to treat their wounds, so they weren't allowed to do it on Shabbat. For the average people who would normally use vinegar, if they're using wine, they're not healing in the normal way. It's not as obvious that they're healing. But for the people of Mechuzah, who would never use vinegar for that, so they would only use wine for that, so it's very clear that they're using it for medicinal reasons. Ravina came to the house of Rav Ashi. Apparently a donkey stepped on the foot of Rav Ashi, and he was dipping his foot into vinegar. Amar Le said to him, Lo savar lamark lahada amar Rav Hillel chalalo. Didn't you hear what Rav Hillel said? You're not allowed to dip your foot in vinegar on Shabbat. It's too obviously a medicinal treatment. So he said, Amar Le gava yad v'gava regel shaneh. That, you know what? The back of the hand, a wound on the back of the hand, and a wound on the back of the foot, on the top of the foot, are considered to be very dangerous, especially dangerous, and therefore you're allowed to violate the prohibition against healing on Shabbat in order to heal them as quickly as possible. That he saw him not dipping his foot in vinegar but dipping it in wine. Amar he said, Lo savar lamar lahada amar Rava hanei b'nei mechuzah kevad mefanke afilu chamra nami masu lahu umar nami hamifanak. He said to him, didn't you hear what Rava said? The people of Mechuzah, since they are very luxurious in their practices, they can't even use wine for healing on Shabbat because it's obvious that they're using it for healing. And you too are a very luxurious, high-class person, so how can you use wine? And he answered him, Amar le, gava yad v'gava regel shani. Amar Rav Adabar matana, Amar Rav, gava yad v'gava regel, harehen kemaka shel halal u'mahalelin alehen et ha-Shabbat. That he said that a wound on the hand or on the foot is considered like an internal wound. It's so serious, and you can violate Shabbat for it. So if I can violate Shabbat for it, I can certainly violate a rabbinic rule against medicinal treatment and dip my foot in wine on Shabbat. The rabbi said, you can wash yourself on Shabbat in all of these different pools. The waters of Gerar, the waters of Chamatan, the waters of Asya, the waters of Tiberia. Even though you're doing it to heal yourself, it's not obvious. You went for a dip to wash off. Maybe you're not doing it for healing purposes. But you can't go into the Mediterranean. And you can't soak yourself in water in which flax has been soaked, and you can't go to the Dead Sea. That's the Yam of Sodom. In other words, all of these things, to dip your feet in them, we might not be talking here about actually immersing in them. There are other issues about swimming and things like that. But let's say, even to, put your feet and dangle your feet into the water, that should normally be okay. And you're allowed to do it because it's not obvious that you're sticking your feet in there for medicinal. Maybe you have a wound in your foot and you want to put it in the Dead Sea so the salt will, seal it up. That's going to do a good job. But the problem is that it's too obvious. That's why it says, V'lo b'yam shel Sodom. You can't go to the Yam of Sodom because everyone's going to know. Or if you put your feet in the flax, they would soak flax in water and it would have a nasty smell, but apparently it was full of a lot of chemicals or whatever that from the flax that had medicinal healing properties. So they would do that. They would stick their feet in it. So you can't do that because it's too obvious, because nobody would normally put their feet or enter that kind of water. It was considered dirty water unless they were doing it for healing purposes. So, but we raised an objection. It says that you can wash off in the Mei Tiberia, the springs of Tiberia, and in the Mediterranean Sea. So in this list, it agrees with the first list with respect to the Dead Sea, with respect to and with respect to the Mei Mishra, the waters that you soaked flax in. But it contradicts the first statement with regard to the Yam HaGadol, with regard to the Mediterranean, because it says that you can bathe in the Mediterranean on Shabbat, and the first statement was that you cannot. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Lo kashe, no problem. Ha Rabbi Meir, ha Rabbi Yehuda. Where do we see a distinction between the Mediterranean Sea and all other seas? We see it in another, we see it. How do you like that? We notice it, we observe it in another context, which is a Mishnah in Masekhet Mikvaot. The Mishnah in Masekhet Mikvaot talks about what is the status of a sea with regard to mikveh. Now, in order to understand this Mishnah, you have to understand that there are different categories of purifying waters in halakha. One is a mikveh. A mikveh, we are all familiar with what a mikveh is, and there's such a thing as a mayan, which is a flowing spring. Now, one of the major differences between a mikveh and a flowing spring is the issue of zochalin. When it comes to mikveh, it must be stationary water. If the water is flowing, a waterfall mikveh would not be good. The water can't be flowing. It has to be collected. Whereas the water of a spring is supposed to be zochalin. It's metahir bezochalin, flowing water, like a river. Also, flowing water is supposed to be flowing and not stagnant. So a mikveh has to be stagnant. Flowing water can, like a river or a spring, that's where you can use flowing water. And then you have a third issue, which is mayim chayim, that for certain things, for example, a zav can only become purified in mayim chayim. Certain things require what's called living waters, mayim chayim. Okay, so that's a separate requirement, as we're going to see. So they argue about the status of oceans here. So ditnan kol hayamim. There's actually a dagesh in the mem because it's not all days. It's yamim with a dagesh in the mem. Kol hayamim. All of the oceans mikveh are considered like a mikveh, meaning that if you are in the middle of the ocean where there are waves, it's not good because the mikveh has to be stationary. This is a shene'emar ula mikveh hamayim, because it says in Bereshit, to the mikveh hamayim, to the collections of water, kara yamim. God called them oceans. So what is he calling them? A mikveh. It says the word mikveh. So the oceans are a mikveh. So in a mikveh, the water has to be stationary. So that means if you're in a grotto somewhere where the water is sort of like stationary, you can in some kind of like inland, like where the water comes into sort of an area and it's almost like a lake. What? Any place where the water is stable and stationary, but it's from the ocean. That would be okay, but in the middle of the ocean where it's all moving, that wouldn't be a good mikveh according to Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir says that the Torah is telling you that the oceans are a mikveh.
And that would apply to a river too, then.
Rivers are different, so let's leave rivers aside for a second. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yam HaGadol Kamikveh. Only the Yam HaGadol, only the Great Sea. Now, by the Yam HaGadol, he means all the oceans that are actually interconnected across the globe, as opposed to like inland seas that are not connected to the large body of water that actually connects most of the oceans in the world are actually connected. Okay, there are some that are cut off. Not the Mediterranean one though. Most of them are ultimately one way or another connected. So, velo nemar yamim ela sheyesh bo minei yamim harbe. The only reason why it says in the Torah yamim is because there are lots of different sources that these waters come from, but really it's that large ocean that covers the globe that is a mikveh, but all the inland ocean, all other oceans are not like a mikveh, so even if they're flowing, you would be able to dip in them. So far we have two stringencies here. And then you have Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, Kol hayamim mitarin bezochalin. Actually, oceans, all of them, even if the water is moving, you can dip in them. You can use them for a mikveh. However, if you need mayim chayim, in other words, in the cases where you need living waters, flowing waters, oceans are not good. Because you have to have spring water for that. So you can't use it for a zav, mitzorah, or to make the mechatat, to make the ashes of the para aduma, you need mayim chayim. So we say that it's considered a mikveh in that respect. In other words, it's considered not living, flowing water. But when it is moving, it's not like a mikveh that it wouldn't be valid when it's moving. But what's the point here? The point here is that the Tanakaman, that Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda argue about whether the Yam HaGadol, which includes the Mediterranean and all the other seas connected to it, is different than all other seas or the same. According to Rabbi Meir, all oceans, all seas are the same. They're all considered like a mikveh, and they all follow the rules of mikveh. According to Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore they would basically never be good because they're always moving. Okay, according to Rabbi Yehuda, only the Yam HaGadol is considered like a mikveh and is not valid, and because it's when it's moving, but other yamim could be. Okay, so there's a distinction between Yam HaGadol and not Yam HaGadol. So the Gemara is saying, look, here's a machloket where there's a distinction between Yam HaGadol. That must be it. So the one Baraita that said that Yam HaGadol is like other Yamim and not excluded, that one is, the first one that said that Yam HaGadol is different than other bodies of water is going like the opinion that said that Yam HaGadol is different. That's Rabbi Yehuda. The one that said that Yam HaGadol is the same as other bodies of water, that must be Rabbi Meir. Of course, the question is, why would this be relevant to the laws of Shabbat in any way, whether they categorize them together or separately? That's a question that everyone raises, and there's no clear answer to it. But Matkifla Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak asks the obvious question. What the thought was to begin with is more difficult to understand than what his objection is, which is, what does this have to do with Shabbat? We're talking about whether a person who's dipping in there is obviously doing it for healing purposes, or might just be doing it to cool off. We're not talking about the laws of purity and impurity. In the laws of purity and impurity, you can argue whether the Yam HaGadol is considered like a mikveh or it's considered like flowing water, and therefore when it moves, it's still allowed to be used. Okay, that has nothing to do with Shabbat. What does it do with Shabbat? Ella, rather, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak lo kasha had ishtehei had la ishtehei. The difference is that the one that said that you can't use the Yam HaGadol, that's talking about where you spend too much time. You're waiting in there for too long. It's obvious that you have a medical reason. One is talking about where you just dip in there for a second to cool off. That's okay. But b'mayo kimta, you're telling me that the batraita, you're telling me that the latter case, de la ishtaheh, is talking about where he didn't spend a lot of time in the Yam HaGadol, and that's why it's allowed. But de la ishtaheh afilu b'mei mishranami. But then that last baraita should have allowed you even to use the flax water. Dehatani, because we learned in the Braita rochatim b'mer teviyav b'mei mishra v'yamash shel Sodom afal pi sheyesh lo chatatim b'rosho b'mei dvarim amurim shelo nishteheh aval nishteheh asur. Because we learned in another Braita that all of these cases, even the Dead Sea, all of them, you're allowed to go in for a moment. You're just not allowed to stay there a long time. In other words, you're allowed to do a momentary dipping even in the Dead Sea, even if you have boils on your body and it's obvious that you want them to get better. You're allowed to dip in for a second. You're just not allowed to soak in there, because soaking in there for a while, it's obvious it's for medicinal purposes. So if we were talking about a case where you didn't soak in there, then everything would be allowed. So the fact that it's saying that the Yam HaGadol is allowed, but the flax water is not allowed, means we're talking about a case where you stayed in there a long time. You lingered. And yet, the first case is saying you lingered and it's not okay. The second case is saying you lingered in the Mediterranean Sea and it is okay. We can't use lingering as the factor. So rather, what do we say? Ella Yam HaGadol lo kasha, no problem. Habiyafin shebo, habara'im shebo. It depends. Which part of the Yam HaGadol are you in? If you're in a nice, clean, beautiful, pristine part of the Yam HaGadol, and you want to go in and wade in a little bit on Shabbat, that's okay, because you might just be going in to cool off. You're enjoying the waters against your skin. However, in the dirty part, let's say you went into the dirtiest, nastiest part of the Yam HaGadol, then it's obvious the only reason you're going there is because you want the medicinal properties, not because you want just to cool off, because nobody would normally go and wade into the dirty parts unless they had to. So it's obvious that there's a medical reason behind it. Mei mishra nami lo kasha. There's also no contradiction with regard to the flax, because because in a case where you linger in the flax water, that you're not allowed to do. To dip in for 1 second, you're allowed to do. Maybe somebody would dip in for 1 second if they needed to wash off their hand. They wouldn't let their hand stay in there too long because they don't want to get the stinky smell on them or whatever it is. The new Mishnah says, "Ein ochlin ezovyon b'Shabbat lefisheno machal b'reim." We don't eat ezovyon on Shabbat because it's not something. The principle of this Mishnah is that anything which would normally be eaten by a regular healthy person, you can eat on Shabbat, even if you're hoping that it will give you a medicinal benefit. But anything that a normal person wouldn't eat unless they were sick, you're not allowed to partake of it on Shabbat because it's obvious that you're doing it for medical reasons. Aval ochelu et yo'ezer, you can eat yo'ezer, which is, we're going to see, another type of a plant which had medical benefits. V'shoteh abov ro'eh, whatever this is. You can drink this abov ro'eh, and we're going to see again that the reason is because it's something that you might have a medical intention behind it, but could also be drunk by a normal person. Kol ochalin, all foods, ochel adam l'refuah. A person can eat them for medical reasons. Let's say you're eating carrots because you want your eyesight to get better, because everybody knows that carrots are good for your eyes because you've never seen a rabbit wearing glasses, right? That was the old saying. And you can drink any kind of drink except for medikalim. You can't drink palm water, whatever that is. I guess they squeeze it out of the palm. The kos ikarin. You can't drink like a potion of these various kinds of herbs that they would mix together, which was done for medicinal purposes again. Because the reason for drinking this was for jaundice. People who had jaundice would drink this. So if you're drinking it, the assumption is that it's for medical reasons. However, however, you can apply these things. You can drink it if you're thirsty, and you can apply this type of herb mixture to your skin if it's just because it feels good on your skin and not for any medical reason. So the way that it's interpreted here, that Rashi interprets it, is that if you're not sick and you want to drink this mei dekalim because you're thirsty, it's okay. But if you're sick, it looks like a medical procedure, because most of the time, in other words, if most of the time it's drunk for medicinal purposes and you're sick, that's too much of an indication that you're using it for medicine. If you're healthy and you're just thirsty and you decide you want to drink it, that would be okay. That's what Rashi is saying. So basically the point is we want to remove that. We want to figure out when is it, where do we draw the line between eating foods that might be healthy for you, that you might just want to eat them, and eating foods that are medicinally indicated and therefore it's taking medicine. So the line that's drawn is if the vast majority of people would never drink this unless it was for medicinal purposes, and you have a condition, then the addition of those two factors means it's medicine. If you don't have a condition and you're drinking it because, hey, you happen to really like the taste of it, and you're thirsty, and you're healthy, no problem. Now the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef, Ezov avarta bar hemeg. What is the Ezov that's mentioned in the Torah? This is what was called avarta bar hemeg in those times. Ezovyon is avarta bar heneg. So according to Rashi, this refers to two different places that they grew. It could refer to two different things that they were grown with, or it could refer to two different locations in which they were grown. But they were two different sort of members of the same botanical family. So they had similar names. Ula says, Marvach Hivara, that this refers to some kind of a white, the Ezov in the Torah. When the Torah says Ezov, that you have to use hyssop, it's referring to some kind of a white grass or white plant. Ula ikla lebe Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Once Ula came to the house of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Aitu lekame marvach hivara. They brought before him this plant. Amar Ainu ezov dechtiv be'oraita. He said, this is what the Torah is talking about when it says hyssop. Whenever it says you have to take agudat ezov, like yesterday's parasha, but they applied the blood to the doorpost. It says they took agudat ezov. Take a bundle of hyssop. Rav Papi Amar Shumshuk. According to Rav Papi, it's Shumshuk. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti. Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti said, Kivate de Rav Papi Mistabra. It makes most sense according to Rav Papi's interpretation of what Ezov is. That's not because we learned in the Mishnah, Mitzvat Ezov Shlosha Kalachin, Obain Shlosha Givolin. That the mitzvah of Ezov, whenever it tells us that we need an Ezov in the Torah, you have to take 3 stalks, each of which has like 3 petals or pieces that branch off from it. And v'shumshuk hu de'mishtakecha hachi, and it's shumshuk that we find has this shape, that it has a stalks that have 3 pieces that jut out from them. So therefore, that must be what the Ezov is, whatever that was called, whatever that was back then. What?
Marjoram.
Is that what they call it in English, or in whatever language that is? Okay. Okay, so lemay achlele, what did they eat it for? In other words, it says that you can't have this ezovyon on Shabbat. So what do you eat it for? The answer is lekukiyani, that you would eat it for stomach worms. If you had worms in the stomach, you would eat this. So it was clearly medicinal in nature. Lemay achlele, what do you eat it with? B'sheva tamrei uchmeta, with 7 black dates. Okay, you would eat this. Mimai havya, and how do you get these worms in your stomach? Mikimchad desa'arei, if you eat barley flour, the chalif ale arba'in yomin, that you ground 40 days ago and never used. So, that makes actually some sense, because probably it would breed worms, and then you would eat it, and then you would have the worms, potentially. Aval ochilu at yo'ezer, it says that you can eat yo'ezer, but my yo'ezer, what is yo'ezer? Potanak. Okay, it's some kind of a again, of some kind of grass. So lemay achlele, what did they eat it for? Le'arketa. They would eat it for arketa. Again, this is worms, but this time in the liver. Lemay achlele, what would they eat it with? B'sheva tamrei chivarta. This one you use white dates, 7 white dates with whatever this plant is that was indicated here. Mimai havya. So how do you get these worms in your liver? Me'umtza umaya alibarekana. If you eat some raw meat and it's roasted meat, I guess, but maybe not fully roasted. It says roasted meat. Me'umtza basar begechalim. Okay, so roasted meat. Let's say rare roasted meat, I guess, with water after it. Okay, or if you eat fatty meat on an empty stomach, or you ate bison meat, right? You ate the meat of a shore, of an ox, on an empty stomach. Or if you ate nuts on an empty stomach, or if you ate the certain types of fenugreek, I think it is, right? Isn't it tiltan? What is tiltan? It says, some kind of a plant, some kind of stalks of some kind of plant. Okay, all right. So he says umashte maya, and you drink water. So if you eat any of these foods on an empty stomach and then you drink water, you would get these worms in the umashte maya abatre, and afterwards you would drink water. So if you had any of these foods on an empty stomach and then you drank water, so it would cause you to have this problem. Vila, and if it doesn't work, if the original method of having this yoezer plant together with the 7 white dates doesn't cure you, or if you don't have it available, so livlat tahalech hivarta, you should eat some of this white type of grass, which would cure you. Okay? So, and ve'ilo, and if you don't have that, or it doesn't work, litiv betanita, fast, and then ve'letiv bisra shamna, then take some fatty meat, ve'lishtea gomrei, put it over the coals, ve'limitz garma, and then you should suck on a good juicy piece of it, ve'ligma chala, and then swallow some vinegar afterwards. Sounds like a good dinner. I mean, what's the problem? It's good. Yeah, but the problem was that it said originally that you get this from eating meat cooked over the coals on an empty stomach, and now you just fasted, and what did you eat? Meat over the coals.
That's what I have for breakfast every day.
Right. So it's a little bit strange that's how the remedy works, but that's what it says. But this time you don't eat it; you suck out the juice from the meat. I guess that's the reason why it's better. And then you drink, instead of drinking water, you drink vinegar. Don't actually drink the vinegar because actually that will cause you more liver problems. Shouldn't do it. And if not, he says alternatively. If this doesn't work or you can't do it, so then go and get some dust that you scraped off of a bush, but make sure that it was scraped up to down, not down to up. The bark was scraped off of this plant, not from this way. Like, remember Mr. Miyagi? How to paint a fence, Right? It has to be up to down. It can't be down to up. Alright, so why? Because if you did it the other way, because apparently if you get bark that was removed from a down to up in an upward motion, whoa, sorry, that's okay. Can you grab it? Oh man, all right, it's okay. Not the end of the world. So if you get one that was done in an upward motion, so then what will happen is the worms will come out your mouth. They'll come out in an upward motion. Because apparently the direction in which you remove the bark is the direction in which these worms are going to come out. So we want them to go out the lower exit and not the upper exit. And that requires bark that was removed going in a downward motion. Can I have one more of those actually? Or two more? So anyway. Okay, so now I lost my place. Okay. Right. So what do you do? So you take this bark. You don't just eat it raw, so don't worry. What do you do with it? You soak it in beer. At twilight. Okay. And in the morning, Naskerino linekavav. I'm going to take Rashi's seemingly preferred interpretation. You close your nose, didei v'lishtei, and you swallow it. V'chim mifaneh, and when you go to the bathroom, mifaneh pishchat dikla, you go to the trunk of the tree, the trunk of a dikla, of a palm tree, and that's where you go to the bathroom. And apparently, the combination of all these different steps will cure you of the worms. V'shotin, these are liver worms. V'shotin abov ro'eh. So what is this? My abov ro'eh. Chumatraya. Okay, but the problem is, my chumatraya, what's that? Chutra yachida'a. It was known as the lone staff. It was some type of tree that had no branches jutting out. It was just a stick coming out of the ground, practically. Lemay avdela, why would you take it? So it says that you're allowed to drink this. Okay, but why would you drink it? Legiluya. It was a cure for if you drank water that was galui. You weren't supposed to leave water uncovered overnight because they were concerned that a snake would go and deposit some kind of a venom in it and that could kill you. So you would drink this kind of a potion made from this tree in order to cure the possible ill effects of drinking that water. V'ila, and if you don't have it, laiti chamsha kilile ve'chamsha kusta d'shikra. You take 5 roses and 5 cups of beer. And it says, you soak the roses in the beer until you have a revi'it worth of this beer-rose combination. And you drink it. And that will cure you of whatever the effects are of the water that you drank. The mother of Rav Achadvoi Bar Ami gave somebody 1 cup of beer and 1 rose instead of 5 cups of beer and 5 roses. Dishikra. Shalaka, she soaked it. Vashkite, and then she gave it to him. But Vishagrat Tanura, then she set the oven really high. Vigarafte, and then after it reached a high heat, she removed the coals from it. Ve'otevite leventa begave, she put a brick inside the oven and made him sit on it. Venafak kehotza yarka, and the green poison came out of him like a green leaf shooting out of the body. So in other words, she didn't need the 5 cups of beer and the 5 roses. She just needed 1 rose and 1 cup of beer. She soaked it, he drank it, then he went into this sauna treatment or whatever it is, this hot, going into this hot oven, and apparently that caused the poison to shoot out. Rav Avya says, Reviata de halava me'iza chivarta. What you can do if you drink this water that has the poison in it is, drink a revi'it of goat milk from a white goat. Rav Huna bar Yehuda amar laite etroga chalita. I'll tell you a better one. Get a sweet etrog. Here's a better treatment. Get a sweet etrog. Ulechayke. Open a hole, cut a hole in it. V'limalye duvsha. Put honey inside. It's going to be sweet. V'lodva be milale dinura. Put it over the coals that are still smoldering. And then eat it. So that way the honey will absorb into the etrog. So that sounds like a good treatment. That sounds good. You get to eat sweet, doubly sweet etrog. Rabbi Chanina says, Me raglaim, urine. Remember Gandhi? He used to drink his own urine. There were a lot of gurus that used to do that. So Me raglaim b'nei arba'im yom, if they are 40 days old. So Rashi says that either means it's aged 40 days or it's from a 40-day-old baby. You're looking at me with the most excited facial expression I've ever seen. Barzina, if you take a small amount of this 40-day-old urine, lizibora, that's if you got stung by a hornet or a wasp, that will cure it. Rivi'ah, if you drink a rivi'it of it, la'akrava, that's if you got stung by a scorpion, it will cure a scorpion. Yeah. And then he says, Palgariva, half a log, which is a 2 riviyot, basically, is legiluya. That's what you have to drink if you drank the water that was uncovered. And riv'ah, if you drink an entire log of this stuff, okay, then afil l'kshafim ma'alu, then even if somebody casts a spell over you, it will be repelled by that. Of course, anything would be repelled by that. Yeah. Anyway, I challenge anybody. No. Okay, moving on. So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Anigron va'avangar v'tiraika ma'alul ben legluya ben lekshafim. These are more appetizing potions that one can drink these are water that was soaked with various types of vegetables inside, either with a certain type of grass or a certain type of beets or some other kind of plant. So they're just sort of like herbal medicines, like homeopathic herbal medicines that were soaked in water. They also could cure you, and I'm guessing that if you had a choice between that and the 40-day-old urine, you're probably taking this. Then it says, Hayman de balach hivya. If you happen to swallow a snake, which is not advisable, but if you did, and it could be that it's referring to some kind of large, some kind of worm in food, or it could be that it's referring to actually a small snake, possibly. So what do you do about that? Lochle kashuta b'milcha. You should get kashuta, which we said before is a reference to hops with salt. And the mixture of this will cure you. But then you have to run 3 mil, which is a mil is a specific distance. It's around a mile, let's say, roughly. So you would have to run that distance. Rav Shimi bar Ashe chazil lahu gavra de balachivya. Rav Shimi bar Ashe once saw somebody who swallowed a snake. I don't know why he swallowed a snake. Remember the man who swallowed a fly? Idmele keparasha. He appeared to him like a horseman. In other words, he suddenly became very domineering and forced him to first eat the hops with salt, and then and he ran after him, he chased after him aggressively 3 miles or 3 mil in order to make sure that he would do the running, and then the pieces of the snake fell out of him piece by piece. Some say Rav Shimi bar Ashe balach. It was Rav Shimi bar Ashe himself who swallowed the snake. Ata Eliyahu, but Eliyahu Hanavi appeared to him, and he appeared to him like a horseman again, like a terror, like a kidnapper or something, like a terrorist. Forced him to eat the hops with salt, and then he caused him to run the 3 mil, and it was he from whom the pieces of snake fell afterwards. If you get bitten by a snake, what you should do is get a white donkey that's pregnant, take its fetus out, cut out the fetus from a pregnant white donkey, and sit on it. This will cure you. But that's only if the donkey from which you removed this fetus is not a terefa, meaning it doesn't have any mortal defect that is going to prevent it from living the next 12 months. If it was a sick donkey, it won't work. Hahu bar kasha. We're turning to Daf Kuf Yud, the very top. There was a certain Jewish official that worked for the government, that a snake bit him. Havat lesar hamre. They took 13 chamare chivarta, white donkeys, bipum bedita, okay, hakar inhu lekulo, v'ishtikachu v'ishtakechu terefa. So they had all 13 of the white donkeys that they had there, they ended up being terefot. So all 13 of them, they couldn't get the remedy for this guy, and so there was haychada be'au gisa bipum bedita, ad azlei, Maitela achla arye. So what happened was that basically there was not in Pumbedita itself. They had 13 of them. They were all terefot. They found that in some other area of Pumbedita there was one more. They went and got it, but a lion attacked it and killed it on the way. So this guy had the worst luck ever, right? All 13 of them were terefot, and then the last one didn't make it. Amar lu Abaye. Abaye said, Dil machivya de rabanan terake de leitle asuta. This guy, maybe he was bitten by a snake of the rabbis. What does the snake of the rabbis mean? Because it says, because it says that one who breaks a fence, a snake should bite him. Okay, and what that means is a person, they always say poretz gader, a person should not break the fences that the rabbis made, or a snake is going to bite him. And maybe this guy violated the words of the rabbis, so the snake bit him, and that's why he can't be cured. Amrule, they said to him, In Rabbi, you're right, our teacher. Because when Rav died, and on the side, this is corrected, not to say Rav, but Rabbah, that when Rabbah died, it should say Gazar Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna deleka delimtaya asa vegidme lebei hilula betavla. That they made a gezerah, they made a decree, Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna made a decree, that nobody should bring myrtle and branches and bells to weddings that year. In other words, they used to bring all this sort of extra decorative and festive stuff to weddings, and for the whole year, because they were mourning the loss of this great rabbi, he decreed that they couldn't have that at weddings. Va'azal ihu amte asavigid me lebei hilula betavla. He went and did it exactly what Rav Yitzchak Bar Bisna said not to do. He brought these branches and the bells and everything. Now, you could see that the first bit tavla is in parentheses, as if perhaps all he said was that you couldn't bring them, and this guy not only brought them, but brought them with bells. In other words, he brought them in the most obvious fashion. He didn't sneak them in. Okay, the point is that this guy flouted the rule, which not only violated the rule that the rabbi made, but disrespected the rabbi that had died, who they were honoring by not having these extra festivities, and therefore this snake bit him and he died. So this is an application of the principle of Poretz Gader Yishachenu Nachash, that a person who breaks the fence of the rabbis, a snake will bite him, and even though the cure would seem to have been readily available, out of 14 donkeys you'd figure at least one of them would produce the remedy that he needed. Unfortunately, none of them did, because this was a divinely ordained snake bite, not just a natural snake bite. Have a great day.